This video is going to be a short tactical analysis of the Germany-Scotland game and basically just a breakdown of what we learnt from this game, how good we think Germany played and how far we think they can go in the tournament basically, and what they're going to look like against other opposition. So the game finished 5-1 to Germany and it was a very well deserved result. Germany were by far the better team and dominated the ball. However, this definitely wasn't helped by Scotland's tactics and the fact that they had a man sent off in the first half. So, just to briefly touch on how they were playing in the first half. They would commonly dominate the ball, and Scotland were playing this really defensively compact 5-4-1 formation. And when Germany had the ball, which they were often dominating, they were built up with sort of three at the back, with Kroos dropping deep into this sort of back line to form this three, with Andrich just playing just a little bit higher up the pitch, and then you had Gundogan even higher than that, who would often play between these half spaces. And then you'd also have Middlestat and Kimmich, the full-backs who would push on really high up the pitch and look to pin the wing-backs of Scotland. And we can see here that we've got the likes of Wirtz, Musiala and Havertz, who are all really good at playing in the half spaces and playing between the lines. So they were always looking to just play on the shoulder of these midfielders and look to receive the ball in these spaces so that they could directly get at the defensive line of Scotland. And I think it was clear to see from this game that Germany have an excellent attacking balance, with the likes of Wirtz and Musiala being able to receive the ball and turn and run at players. And then you also have Havertz in there who can get in behind but also can drop deeper and is really good at hold-up play and able to tie these players into the pitch and help them dominate the possession when attacking as well. So, in terms of dominating the possession, which they often did, you'd have Kroos as sort of the metronome and the heart of the team, who would look to just pick up the ball, drive forward a little bit and then look to instantly play into the likes of Wirtz, Gundogan, Havertz and Musiala. And throughout this game, sort of Germany were playing almost with like a front four consistently, because you'd have Gundogan so often, he'd sort of pass the ball off maybe to Andrich or Kroos and then instantly look to get forward. And then you'd have the movements of Havertz as well, either getting in behind, which would draw this defender out, leaving a bit of space for Gundogan, or space for Wirtz or Musiala as well. Yeah, as we said, they've got an extremely good balance of their ability to pass into feet, but also getting behind, as we saw so many times in the first half, that if Rudiger ever had the ball with a decent amount of space, you'd instantly see Havertz looking to make that run in behind. And we've seen so many times that Angus Gunn, the Scotland goalkeeper, had to be rushing out of his goal in order to get the ball so that Havertz couldn't get on the end of it. And we'd also seen the likes of Kroos with his long passing as well. So when Germany were dominating possession in sort of this shape here, you'd have Kimmich on this right-hand side where Robertson would have to tuck in to keep this defensive block really nice and tight. That it would just free up the space for Kroos to just ping this long ball out to Kimmich here, and then he's instantly got a one-on-one. Or for the likes of Musiala to drop in as well, or Gundogan to come across to just help dominate the ball and recycle on the edge of Scotland's box. Without the ball, I think it was quite impressive to see, even though Scotland are not considered a very good side, that Germany looked to press extremely high, would not allow Scotland to play out at all. So as soon as if Scotland wanted to play out from the back, you'd always see Musiala sprinting towards the ball, Havertz always looking to close down, and Wirtz. Those front three have clearly been given the reins to attack when they don't have the ball and really press on and just look to cut out Scotland so they can't play out from the back or even get any sense of possession within the first half. And then also this high press really played into Germany's hands as well, because Scotland are not the most technical team, so it was difficult for them to make these little intricate passes and play out through the press. So they would just often have to just lump it forward. And then you've got Tah and Rudiger, who are one of the best partnerships at the Euros. So they're not really going to lose any headers. And we saw so many times that Shea Adams just could not get on the ball. He'd had about less than 15 touches in the first half, and you can see why, because Scotland were just looking to lump it forward, and then these two could just cut out the ball straight away, or it would be cut out by the likes of Kroos or Andrich as well.
A really disappointing first half for Scotland, and obviously the red card from Porteous having given away the penalty. Scotland took Shea Adams off and then decided to play Christie sort of a bit higher, and then stuck to this 5-3-1, really rigid, really tight structure, just as a bit of damage limitation, I think, in my opinion. Obviously not wanting to get too embarrassed from this. And as we'd seen from the first half as well, we'd had obviously Kimmich and Middlestat both playing extremely high up the pitch, with sort of Wirtz, Musiala and Havertz playing in those tight sort of half spaces and just in that gap between the defensive and midfield line. And then Andrich came off at half time because he was on a yellow card, and Pascal Gross came to fill in, so he played like that position. And then you just still had that same sort of back three build up with Gross just a little bit in front, and then sort of Gundogan so kind of given free reign to just sort of like roam around just in these areas and get into these pockets. One little tactical tweak that Germany made in the second half, which I think worked really well, was that say sort of Scotland sort of just lined up like this and Germany are dominating the ball. That say for example, we saw quite a few times this is the best example, that Kimmich so Wirtz now would start a bit further out wide with Kimmich starting a little bit deeper. So instead of having the likes of Wirtz or Musiala right in the middle of the pitch, they were starting very wide and high up the pitch. So this meant that Andy Robertson was having to pull out a little bit more. And what they would do quite often is that Wirtz would just drift inside just 10-15 yards, and this would force Robertson to go with him because the communication would have to be absolutely perfect between these two defenders in order to get that. But when you've got the likes of Havertz running around as well, it's really difficult to get that. So this would force the wing backs to just tuck in just 5 or 10 yards, and then this would open up all this space for the wing back here of Germany. So you saw so many times in this half that Kroos would just get the ball and just instantly look to play these wide passes out towards Kimmich and Mittelstadt. So it works the same way as well. Musiala would start really high and wide. Mittelstadt start a bit deeper. Musiala would just drift inside. That defender would have to go, and then he's got all this space. And you saw in the second half that they were getting a lot more crosses in this half. I think also that the facts that you've got the types of players like Musiala who are really good on the ball, who are able to travel with the ball, you can just play it into feet, get really high up the pitch with it, take a few players on and then look to make something happen, is really important for Germany. And we saw in the second half for Füllkrug's goal, who'd come on for Havertz, that Musiala received the ball just inside Scotland's half, maybe about here, and was able to just drive up the pitch a little bit. So commonly, like Scotland shifted across like this, commonly this midfielder would just take that man and say, yeah, or I've got him, or this wing back would push out and you'd all shift across. However, in this instance, what we've seen from Germany is Mittelstadt would just bomb forward like this. So now this midfielder is stuck in two minds. He either presses Musiala and just leaves Mittelstadt to just run in behind to potentially receive the ball, or he has to trap Mittelstadt and hope that one of the midfielders comes across. So you just see Mittelstadt just running along the pitch here, and then this midfielder's drawn in a little bit, and then these midfielders come across, and then this allows Musiala to just keep travelling with the ball, so he picks it up and he's able to just keep running, and then this is where it gets to the danger zone. So we've got Havertz, some say Kimmich is shifted across as well. So you've got these two danger men here. So Musiala's running at the defence like this, and then he cuts inside, and then it travels a bit more to the edge of the box, and then this is where we see this movement from Gundogan that's so effective. He's sort of just neglected, and he just like drifts in behind Scotland's midfield and gets into the box about here. Gets the ball played into feet, he sort of gets stuck under his feet, and it just drops kindly for Füllkrug, not Havertz, because it's second half, and he ends up scoring that goal. But it's just a really good example of how Germany can use their key players slightly differently, but to even more devastating effect. So instead of just Musiala receiving to feet in the middle of the pitch, he's directly able to just get at defenders, commit loads of players, and which opens up space for other players. And we saw as well, just like Scotland was so focused on Musiala because he's the danger man, getting into this middle part of the pitch, that they just neglect Gundogan, and he just makes that late run into the box and no one picks him up, and Germany are ultimately able to score again. And I think sort of it works the same on the other side as well with Wirtz and Kimmich. They can sort of alternate those roles so well. So Wirtz can start really wide, drift in and allow Kimmich to get in behind. Or it can just be Wirtz playing really central and Kimmich just bombing forward and really stretching this back line and just making the pitch as wide as possible, which then provides a little bit more space for the likes of these players in the midfield here or just in the centre of the pitch to attack and really get at the defenders. So Germany absolutely deserved to win that match, and I think 5-1 was genuinely a fair reflection. Maybe even 5-0 to be honest, because Scotland had absolutely no attacking threat whatsoever. I think that obviously Scotland's game plan was sort of to how teams play against Man City in the Premier League, where they will just sit back, sort of keep a really compact shape, try to limit their chances, not let the ball get to their big players, and just try to stay in the game for as long as possible. But that plan went out the window very quickly because Germany was 2-0 up inside about 20 minutes. So then there was sort of no plan B, I don't think, from Scotland. And then it sort of just went bad to worse when Porteous got sent off, and obviously the penalty of the game was absolutely shed and buried at that point. I think that Germany obviously played extremely well and deserved to win. However, I don't think that Germany will be able to play as expansive as this against better opposition. So I really don't think that they would get away with having Kimmich and Mittelstadt play super high up the pitch, because against teams that are really good in transition and good at counter-attacking, they're going to be left so exposed, because while Scotland, say Shea Adams or Christie, would just be playing deeper, say a team like France would just leave Mbappe just up the pitch, or the likes of Dembele really high up the pitch, and then if you've got one of the likes of those players just directly running at one defender, it's going to be so difficult to get away with not conceding any goals or big chances. So I think that what we'd probably see is that Kimmich would be the player that would just start a little bit deeper and just sort of play a bit more conservative, because obviously he can play in midfield. We might even see sort of something like this in the build-up phase, sort of that three at the back with either Gross or Andrik and Kimmich in the midfield, and then just still allow Gundogan to just roam around. But even then, he might play a bit deeper to start with as well. But I think that Mittelstadt is the one that's sort of like an out and out, wants to play really high up the pitch, really attacking, get cross into the box and create chances as much as possible. I think that this German team has got a really good blend of players who can take the ball to feet, really technical players, but also players who can get in behind and can score, can hold up the play, in the likes of Havertz. And I think that the Euros and big tournaments like this is sort of like, it's all about moments. It's not necessarily about how good the team plays. It just takes one bit of inspiration from one player, a big moment to create a goal, which wins you the game. And I think that Germany do have these moments players. I think that Musiala and Wirtz are definitely moments players. Havertz can score goals when he is given the opportunity. And I think Gundogan as well is a moments player, where he can just pop up at the right time and just nick a goal or create a chance. That is the difference between winning and losing these tournaments. And I think that they have a pretty good squad depth as well. The likes of Sane, Fulkrug, Gross and Muller, when they came on, nobody really looked out of place. But that being said, it was against Scotland and they were playing against 10 men, so it's difficult to actually draw proper conclusions from that. I think that Germany do have a good chance of winning the Euros, especially because it's their home tournament, and that's always a massive advantage for teams like this. However, I think against better opposition, we're going to see them really tested, because they just won't be able to get away playing this expansive in the future. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. And any feedback or constructive criticism is much appreciated, and we'll hopefully be making some more videos like this in the future of just reviewing some of the Euros games, what we can take away from it. Has a team played better or worse? Have they done anything interesting tactically? And yeah, thanks a lot.